Welcome back to the Joyful Badass Podcast, the space where joy meets power and purpose. I'm Chanel, your host, business therapist, coach, and unapologetic champion for living boldly and authentically. Here, we're about embracing the fullness of who you are, breaking barriers, smashing doubts, and celebrating your unique badassery. Whether you're about building business, healing your spirit, or just leveling up your life, this is your weekly dose of inspiration, tools, and real talk to help you thrive unapologetically. Today's episode is a must listen to because we're talking about something every person and entrepreneur faces, but few talk about, and that's burnout. Specifically, how to combat that burnout as it pertains to life and your entrepreneurial journey, right? We are going to use the power of physical wellness to discuss how it is that you can overcome burnout and be your best self. So grab your favorite drink, settle on in, and let's get into it. So let's understand what burnout actually is, right? I think a lot of us feel it, but maybe can't put the words to what it actually is. So many of us are like, I'm just tired. But burnout is much more than being tired. It's a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged stress. And let's be real, life and entrepreneurship is stressful. We can't deny that. But if we don't manage it, it's only going to get worse and turn into something bigger that than I think any of us really want to deal with. Okay. So when I think about burnout and stress, I think about a couple of different things. How am I using self-care in my life? Or am I using self-care in my life? Do I have balance in my life or harmony? I think harmony is a better way to detail it versus balance, but I think we have to start with balance. And am I being responsive to that or reactive to that? Okay, so let's break all of those things down just a little bit. Okay. So, first and foremost, self-care, right? So, we all live in the hustle and bustle, and some of our tasks in life require much more capacity than we have to give. And that is actually how burnout becomes an issue, right? So, with stress of getting it all done, or paying bills, or making sure the family's good, or making sure I make this sale, or making this deal, or whatever that looks like across the board, there are certain key points that we have to actually stop and say, am I taking care of myself? Right. So in business, and I'm going to start with business first because I think, especially for entrepreneurs, there is a push to be successful. And that push to be successful gets tied up and bogged down in a bunch of other stuff, which also causes stress, which then also causes burnout because it's not necessarily quote unquote perfect. Right. So we'll talk about perfectionism in another episode because that requires an episode all into itself. But when we're sitting down and having a conversation about, am I making sure that I'm good, i.e., the self-care, right? So when I don't have motivation, when I have increased fatigue, when I'm irritable, when I can't focus, when I'm having digestive issues or my head is hurting, my eyes are just like, my burnout comes in my throat, right? Because I do a lot of talking all day long. I lose my voice periodically, and that's usually my cue to go, you're doing too much. I try really hard not to get to that point of I'm doing really too much where my body starts to react because our body starts shutting down because we won't. So I want you to keep in mind that really important key factor. Okay. And those symptoms I just listed. Have a self-care plan that addresses your physical, mental, and emotional spaces in life, right? So for me, I'll give you some examples. I was just talking to a group of friends the other day. I teach fitness classes. Why do I teach fitness classes? Because moving my body is the best way to move out negative energy and replace it with positive energy. It gives a lot more space in my body to hold other things, right? So I teach fitness classes 3 times a week so that I ensure that I am moving my body. I also take an extra fitness class or 2 a week. It just depends on what the week looks like, so that I don't actually have to necessarily think, and I can be more present with my workout. That's the physical part. My emotional part, and my mental part go together. And so, um, I know, because I'm a therapist, that your emotions and your thoughts are very well connected, and they fuel each other, right? So if my emotions are off, the thoughts are probably coming behind it that are also off. But if I can address both of those things simultaneously and put myself back on a positive stream, we're going to do much better. Okay. I allow for those things, those emotions that don't feel so great, and those thoughts that aren't so great to come up, because somewhere in my body, that is a truth that is being spiraled around. And I also don't want to be like creating a foundation. Think about this as a garden, right? If I'm using bad soil, my crops aren't going to grow. So I have to cultivate things with new soil, and healthy soil, so that I can then grow, right? So those are the things that I look at when I look at my self care plan. Okay. So for my emotional and mental health, I do a few things. So I journal. I have also created a whole line of guided mindset journals to help work on not only self worth, but the entrepreneurial barriers. And they're just about mindset. They're not about tips and tricks about, like, oh my gosh, how do I build this business, or how do I, create more empowerment in my life? No, this is about you and your mindset, right? So I do have those out on purpose, because for this reason right here. So journaling is one thing. I have a playlist for getting my mind right. And that can look like many different things. I have a few playlists for getting my mind right. And that allows me to like have expression. So I can yell, I can scream, I can cry, I can talk shit, like whatever that looks like, down for it. Through that emotional vomiting comes those thoughts. And those thoughts kind of illuminate some of those spaces of probably not feeling adequate or not feeling good enough in that moment. And then it gives me the opportunity to say, I'm so glad that that came up, and I was able to be present with that. And let me tell you why you're worthy. Let me tell you why you are enough. Let me tell you why you are loved. Let me tell you why you're a badass. And I can then replace those thoughts, and work and sit in some different energy. Um, I also know that, so music, journaling, um, mo- moving my body, um, I have a different understanding of emotions and thoughts when I'm outside in nature. And I can speak things into the earth, and I can ground into the earth. Grounding is another really good technique. Um, so just some of those things. For physical, like I said, I do workouts. I might also go and get massages, chiropractor. I make sure that my body feels well. I'd feel like we harbor so much stress and anxiety in our bodies, that we're unaware of. And so movement. A lot of people use like yoga, which is also really good movement, to just remove some of that tension. You would be amazed at how relaxing your body relieves a lot of these burnout and stress symptoms, um, in the long run. Okay. Um, so burnout tends to hit entrepreneurs a little bit harder than the rest of us, but not to say that like burnout is like specific to entrepreneurs, because it's not. Because of the hustle culture that is within entrepreneurship, wearing multiple hats in your business, and also feeling like, yeah, you're failing if you're not working 24/7. And I want to stop right there, because those same three things apply to people, like just regular people, people who have a regular 9 to 5, who are just living life, whether your parents or taking care of, your parents or your grandparents. There's always some level of responsibility. And that's why I'm saying this is talking about, combating entrepreneurial burnout, but it's really just about burnout. Um, in general, we have not been taught to take time. We have not been taught to take care of ourselves. It's always been about competition. It's always been about who can get there first. And at some point, you have to make a decision. Is that more important, or is my mental well being, my physical well being, and my emotional well being more important to me? Would I rather live a life that has joy in it, or am I going to continue to stick in this rat race? And that's probably the story that the world doesn't want you to hear. Okay. You can actually have balance and harmony in your life. And when I say balance, is that we're looking at all the things in our lives and we're giving them the percentage that they should get. But harmony is about knowing that those percentages are not fixed and that we have to be able and willing to give a little over here sometimes and pull back over here and other times, and things will eventually balance out. Right. My very first time of like really having to create this was once I finished graduate school. I had absolutely no time. I was burnt out. I was in my early 20s, and I was working part-time, doing an internship part-time, and then going to school full-time. So I was doing entirely too much. And I realized, like, yes, it was necessary for me to get the degree that I wanted. But if there was any other way that I could have done that, man, oh man, would I have done it differently. And I just want you to think about, how could I do this differently in a way that benefits me? Once I got out of school, I was able to like regain time, which is super duper important. And there was a Zumba class that I really wanted to go to, but I was working. So I made sure that as soon as my schedule cleared up, because I used to make my own schedule, but I didn't realize this class was then, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as that client was finished, I blocked off and protected that time. That time was for Zumba. I could see clients before that time. I could see clients after that time, but I had to see clients that were near that location because I was going to class. I made that commitment to myself. Keep in mind that self care does not have to be this big, robust thing. It can be a small, tiny 5 to 10 minutes in the morning before you get started with your day, 15 minutes before you go to bed. The important thing is understanding that self care isn't selfish and it's necessary, and that you are pouring into yourself so that you are not feeling burnt out. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so, therefore, you have to do things that strategically fill your cup. So, just keeping in consideration balance and harmony as you are thinking about burnout and not experiencing it. Um, the last piece is about being responsive versus being reactive to burnout. And so, responsive means that we're going to have things in place that help you to not be burnt out or avoid burnout, right? And so that is that self care. And what is your plan? And how are you supporting yourself and loving on yourself, replenishing yourself, restoring yourself? Um, those things are responsive. So I feel something coming on, so I'm going to cut it off at the pass and deal with it before it takes over. Reactive is waiting until you're burned out. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's really, really hard to try and push through and do something else once I'm burnt out. Really and truly, the only thing I want to do if I'm burned out is sleep. There's no motivation, there's no energy, none of that. And so, like, I want you to also practice being responsive to your own needs, so that it's not leading to burnout. Okay. So, burnout isn't just about a mental issue, it takes a toll on your body. Um, and it's important to really pay attention to your whole being in order to not get to the point of burnout, but rather be responsive and proactive so that you can be at peace and at your best functioning self in life and in your entrepreneurial journey. So let's talk a little bit more about the role of physical wellness and why it's really important. Okay. So your physical wellness matters because when your body thrives, your mind thrives. Movement, nutrition, and rest are the foundation of your energy and focus. So that means that everything in those three things need to be balanced, right? So rest is important because if you're not getting rest, everything else is thrown off. Your circadian rhythms, your sleep cycles are basically the controls by which your body is functioning. So if those are thrown off, everything is thrown off. Your nutrition is your fuel, right? And so Without that, movement is not happening most likely. Like it's a harder push to get things going. And like I expressed before, movement helps to move the yucks out basically. So any type of negative energy or bad vibes, we're going to be able to move that out of your body through movement. Physical activity also releases endorphins, boosts your energy levels, and reduces stress. So, all of those things are very vital for you to not feel burned out. Okay. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So I want you to think about movement. Okay. Try to do 20 minutes a day. Build that into your schedule. And maybe it's longer than that. Like I like to do an hour workout, but I also recognize that sometimes that's not feasible, right? We have life expectations. This doesn't mean you have to go to the gym because, like, I hate being in the gym. Like, I teach classes, fitness classes at a gym, but I hate like being on the treadmill or the elliptical. Like that stuff is so boring and I'm not in love with it. But do what works for you. Okay. So 20 minutes a day, put it in your schedule. Um, you know, if you can take a break in the middle of the day just to give yourself a brain break, it's probably perfect. And it'll actually give you a little boost of energy to make it through the rest of the day as well. Um, so nutrition, right? So since your food is your fuel, think about foods that are going to boost your energy and not take it away, right? We're looking for productivity, a positive mood, like motivation, all that stuff. So we're not going to have a high carb situation at lunchtime because that's actually going to plummet your energy. So look for foods that are going to be energy boosting, and also, find healthy snacks, make sure that you're hydrated, and meal prep if necessary, so that you're getting those types of nutrients during the day. And lastly, rest. Um, I find that a lot of people struggle with this point in particular simply because we always feel like we have to be on. Um, I can assure you that one of my favorite things to do is rest. And rest can look like a lot of things, but a lot of times it's me laying in my bed, not connecting with people. Um, and I can be watching a movie, I could be doing nothing, I can be on social media, I can be doing a few different things, but laying in my bed is at the top priority in that. Um, Rest is not a reward. It is a necessity. So make sure that you are prioritizing your sleep, and taking breaks during the day. I remember when I first moved into private practice, I literally had a 12-hour day without a break in it. I don't know what was wrong with me. I don't know why I thought that was a great idea. Um, it wasn't. And so literally I was sneaking 3 minutes in between sessions to like try and just shove something in my face. And I recognized that I had lost my mind, um, just temporarily. And I needed to set up a better schedule for myself because that was not going to do. And so I quickly did change that schedule, and I prioritized taking a break, a lunch break, because I was doing a lot of trauma work in the midst of the pandemic in 2020 when I was doing this, which was absolutely crazy. And then as I've moved further into my entrepreneurial journey, making sure that those breaks are definitely scheduled and I take them. I have an hour for lunch every day. And sometimes I take half of it to take a nap and the other half to eat lunch. Sometimes I take a shower, and then I eat lunch. But I always make sure that I have some type of break in the middle of the day to get ready to sail me through the end of the day. Okay. And go to sleep at a reasonable hour. Like things that are left on your desk will still be there tomorrow. Think about it that way. Um, so make sure you're taking, power naps or have a routine to kind of wind down. Cause I know sometimes we're just really on. And so we're pumped and the adrenaline's going and it's hard to sleep. So create like a sleep routine to calm your body down. Just giving yourself some options to support a better well-being and to avoid burnout. Now, I just want to talk about some quick tips about preventing burnout. Now that we know how to identify burnout and what to do about it, let's talk about prevention, right? So, some of the things that are really, really, I think, important when we're talking about preventing burnout, especially using physical wellness, is having a wellness routine. So, schedule your workouts, your meal breaks, and rest, just like you schedule all of those work meetings or kids' activities or all the things in life, right? When things are scheduled, you're more likely to do it. And to be honest with you, it becomes part of your routine. And so soon you won't have to schedule it because you'll already know it's protected time. I'm going to do it. This is what's happening. Next, you can use different apps like Headspace or Calm or MyFitnessPal to help with the different levels of whatever your self-care plan is. So whether it is, keeping better nutrition or, providing yourself meditations or calm spaces or coping skills, those kind of things can help to track and keep you on track, right? And then break things down into smaller bites. I think sometimes we go, oh, I have this huge project, or, the world feels like it's so large. Just break things down into smaller pieces, and then you can go ahead and celebrate those wins, right? The smaller pieces allow you to feel success along the way and get you to a point of um, being able to digest that progress over perfection, and be okay with it, right? We're not pushing ourselves too far to be like, okay, I'm going to just lean into that burnout space. Absolutely not. So go ahead and break that down and make sure you celebrate those small wins along the way. Okay. Next, we're going to shift our mindset, right? Mindset is everything. And I will reiterate this over and over and over, because what we think we create. And so we have to change the narrative that self-care is selfish, because it isn't. It is not selfish to show up for yourself so that you can show up for everything else in your world, your family, your friends, your business, any of those things. Um, and if you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot be at your best for all of the things that you want in your life. So just work really hard to ensure that your wellness takes priority in your life, whether as just regular, degular folks or as an entrepreneur. When we talk about physical wellness and wellness in general, we're not just talking about exercising and eating salads. We're talking about transforming how you care for yourself as the foundation of how you show up in your business and in your life. The real transformation happens when you move from reacting to stress and burnout to proactively prioritizing your well being. That transformation can look like the before, so being constantly exhausted, overwhelmed, struggling to focus, and feeling guilty for resting, to after addressing it, to feeling energized, clear minded, and confident in setting boundaries that protect your time and energy. Imagine waking up feeling energized, excited to tackle your goals, and actually feeling good about stepping away from work to recharge. What could change in your life and in your business if you had the energy and the clarity to make decisions from a place of alignment instead of exhaustion? So, I want you to start with one small, manageable change. Transformation doesn't mean overhauling your life overnight. Maybe today it's drinking one more glass of water, taking a 10-minute walk, or even going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Small changes lead to big shifts. Transformation isn't about perfection, it's about progress. So every step you take towards wellness is a step towards reclaiming your power as an entrepreneur and in your life. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Joyful Badass podcast. I hope that you are able to really reassess how the structure of your life is leading to burnout and make some changes for your own betterment and increased joy in your life and in your work. I definitely hope to see you again next week for our next episode on failing forward. And as usual, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Tell your friends about it. We want to continue to build community here and support you all in your journeys to being joyful badasses. Bye, boo.